Hello everyone. So a video came across my feed. It was part of a news report on a local news station here about a bear incident that happened in a small town called Bella Coola, which is located kind of central coastal British Columbia. And it's well known for bears. It's Bear Central there, Bella Coola. Everybody knows about it, and it's kind of a bit of pride for them. There's a lot of tourism because of it. Well, this fellow, he ended up shooting a grizzly bear sow with a shotgun, and it was reported on the local news station. So I'm going to go through this kind of step by step, and we're going to do an after action report because I see a lot of stuff that he did wrong in this certain situation, and the only way to learn from it is to examine it, break it down, and critique it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. All right, so here's the background on what's going on. This fella here had just returned after a week trip. I don't know if he was on holidays or he was out working, who knows. And he says we. So I'm assuming it's him and his wife. Don't really know. I'm just making an assumption here. So they have kids, and they left their kids with his in-laws, so the mother's parents, which he notes are from the city. So he's got his 70-plus-year-old parents looking after his kids, which is fine. I mean, that happens normally. But as we're going to learn, they're probably not well equipped to deal with the situation that they're actually in. Now, he says that he left them, his grandparents, with a bucket of nuts and bolts to shake and make noise to get bears off the property if they come. Well, that's just not good enough. It's simply not. He's got a couple of old folks looking after his kids, and he knows that they're not well versed in bears or bear activities. And then he leaves his kids with with the grandparents, and then all he does to protect them is to leave a box of nuts and bolts, a noisemaker. That's wow. Okay, but anyways, so that's the situation. They come back after a week, and they start noticing signs as soon as they come onto the property that there's been some bear activity in the area. So he knows what that looks like. He talks about it. He says bent over mountain ash trees, broken branches, bear crap, full of berries. You know, he knows the time of year. And there's craters all over his yard where they've been digging for roots. I mean, this is pretty obvious for somebody who knows what to look at. And the next morning, so they must have come in late. So the next morning, he let his dogs out, which is also like, why are you doing that when you know that there's bears in the area in the morning when they're likely to be out? I mean, bears typically are active in those dusk type periods, just like most animals are. Like during the day, they'll find themselves a nice little comfy patch, and they'll sit there and munch on whatever's available. But they're moving around in the evening and the morning, just like most animals do. So he lets his dogs out. They start barking. So he looks outside, and he notices bears by a tree, which is a fruiting tree that he has picked. So the guy, he obviously knows a bunch about bears, and he knows the signs. He knows what they're attracted to, and he's made preparations for that. So that's good. That's really good. But he grabs his 12-gauge shotgun and then goes outside. Now, I don't know. I'm not from Bella Coola, but I can imagine, it's a big region. It's well known for bears. There's lots of human and bear interface going on. And maybe it's the case in that area that conservation officers, there's only like 4 or something, and they're just busy. And you may make a call get a conservation officer out to deal with the problem, and he may not show up for like 3 or 4 days. Which is like, what is the point then? Because obviously the bears would have moved on. You can't be a prisoner inside your house. So maybe that's the normal thing to do in Bella Coola, is to go out and deal with it yourself, which is fine. It's fine. So he goes outside with his shotgun. I'm not really sure if it was if he absolutely had to do that or not, but he did. Okay. And he loads it with number 6 trap shot. Trap loads. Now, with the intention of scaring away the bear. Now that's pretty damn questionable whether or not he should have done that or not. It seems weird to me. He's got a shotgun, which is pretty decent. Yeah, it's pretty effective. It's got a well-known history of killing bears when you need them to. Yeah. And then he loads it with trap shot. And he doesn't even bring slugs with him. He loads 3 trap shot shells into it, and then proceeds to walk outside with the intention of shooting it off and scaring the bear away. Now, there are tools for that. They're called flashbangs. Bear busters, whiz bangs, a bunch of names for them. They're a commercially made product. They're very light, they're very cheap, and they make a big bang and they flash and make a bunch of noise. And then for most bears, it scares them off, unless they're really well habituated, or unless there's a food source or some other reason that they're in the area and they don't care about little whiz bangs and that sort of stuff. There's also little sandbags that you can get, rubber bullets, that sort of stuff. But it just feels ill-prepared. Now, he doesn't go out there well-dressed. I mean, the guy's wearing Crocs. Now, he's going outside, and from the video, from what I can tell, he's a fair distance away from his house. There's no cover, there's nothing to hide behind. He's out in the middle of a field, downhill from where the bears are. He's in a tactically bad position. He's too far away from his home to get there in time. His footwear is atrocious. He'd be better off not wearing anything on his feet. So he can't move quickly, and all he's armed with is birdshot. No pepper spray. He doesn't have any mention of that. He's by himself. There's nobody else that he mentions that is armed or is ready to come to his rescue. His grandparents are there, but they're obviously not equipped or trained or have any understanding of what to do in a situation like this. They probably have been suffering under these bears for a week and did nothing. He didn't say conservation officers were out there earlier. So they sat there and did squat all 4 days, for several days probably, because there's bear sign everywhere. So that's his backup, which isn't any. So he puts himself in this position, and I don't know when he discovers that it's a sow with cubs. Maybe he did at that point. I don't know. He doesn't say. So he's in this position. He shoots a shot off in the air. The bear takes notice and buggers off. Starts moving away from him, which is great. At that particular point, I think his job was done. He didn't have to do much more than that, other than hang around his house and keep an eye out for the rest of the day, for the next few days or whatever. And but he didn't stop. He pursued. Now, if you know anything about predatory behavior, that's what predators do. If you've seen videos of bears stalking people, or there's a really good video of I think it's coyote attacking a guy's feet. He's sitting in the snow and this coyote is probing. That's predatory behavior. He thinks that this coyote is actually playing with him, but it's not. It's checking them for weakness to see if it can eat them. but he's an idiot, but it doesn't matter. They come in, they test, they watch for a reaction, they come around from a different side, they test. They're doing probably what most people would do when they're faced with something that they don't understand. And they're testing it to see how much risk there is. That's what predators do. They touch, let's check it from this side. Yeah, I might be able to eat them. The risk looks pretty low. And then finally they go in for the kill and they kill you. So what is that bear supposed to think? Now, here comes an animal, a human being, and it makes a big noise. The bear is like, yeah, I don't like that. So she retreats, and he follows and continues making noise. Yeah, that was pretty stupid. So the bear turns and charges. Now at this point, when you've got a bear charging you, I think the safe thought going through your brain is, I got to shoot this bear. Like, you can take the chance and hope that it's a bluff charge, but the consequences for that is death or a severe mauling, which you may end up dying anyways. I mean, people say they got mauled, but the difference between being killed by a bear and being mauled by a bear is that you die. I mean, a mauling is something that you survive, but you die when you get mauled too much. So he gets charged by this bear. He does the right thing. He levels his shotgun and he takes a shot. He hits it. Now, he mentions in his write-up that he doesn't shoot for the face. He shoots for the front leg. Again, his attitude here is completely wrong. He's concerned about the bear. About blinding the bear. He's got a bear, a sow, pissed off sow, charging at him, and he's worried about the welfare of the bear? Now, if you have a disregard for your own life, that's one thing. I mean, that's bad. But a human being has complicated relationships. We're pack animals. We rely on each other. And he's not just a guy. He's also a father. He's a husband. And he's a son. There are multiple people in his community that rely on him and interact with him on a daily basis. He has friends. So when he dies, and when he gets mauled to death in front of his kids and his wife and his parents, what is that going to do to them? It's going to screw them up for the rest of their lives. Could you imagine what that would do to you as a child? You know, preteen, you watch your father get violently dismembered by a bear and partially devoured. We're talking having his abdomen ripped open and his organs pulled out while he's screaming in agony and in terror. Like, holy crap. This is serious business. What is that going to do to his wife? His parents? Not to mention the effect on his friends and all the people. It's a small community. One person dies, especially somebody who's working age, who interacts with a lot of people all day, every day. You know, he provides services. He takes services from other people. It's a big deal when you die as a human being. Now, he's putting all of that's meaningless to him compared to whether or not a bear gets blinded. Now, when a bear dies, I don't know. It's probably likely that the sow's cubs will be freaked out for a little while, and they might suffer because they don't have the protection of their mother for a little while. But even if they all died, say both cubs died, the sow dies, What is that? How does that affect the bear community? Doesn't. It just have some other bear move in. It's such a bizarre attitude. I don't know. It's weird. I just cannot contemplate it. He's worried about blinding the bear. So what does he do? He shoots. Well, he claims he shot the bear in the front leg, which is actually a good strategy if he was using slugs or some other heavy load, but he wasn't. He was using birdshot. But okay, so the best bet would have been to shoot the bear in the face if he could. But he doesn't. He shoots it in the leg. Whether or not he actually does that on purpose or not, I don't know. I've reviewed the video, slowed it down, have a look. Have a look at it. Right when he takes the shot, that shotgun is not up to his face. It's down low. He's not looking down the barrel. He's shooting blind. So he says he shot for the leg. I'm not so sure if he did or not. I think he took a shot and it hit the bear in the leg, and then he justified it later. So it sounds like the bear takes off. It retreats. It buggers off. And he's all happy about that because it has full motor function at that time. So he thinks he hasn't done the bear any damage. Oh, he gave it a bruise. Maybe it'll teach him a lesson. Blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is that bear's probably going to die. And it's probably going to be a slow, painful death over a couple of days or maybe a week or a little bit more. I mean, he shot it at pretty close range, so it got a good load of bird shot, and it does a fair amount of damage. It would have ripped open that bear, and the bear is either going to bleed to death over the next number of hours or maybe a day, or it's going to get an infection and die over several weeks, or there's a good chance that some other predator, another bear, coyotes, whatever, will encounter it in a weakened state and then kill it and eat it. That's the truth. It's more likely that that bear is going to die anyways. So it's messed up. It's a really messed up situation, and he screwed up a lot. The only thing that he did right was that he pulled the trigger and shot that bear when he did. If you review the video, he waits. Now, I don't know if he takes so long because the fight-flight response is in action and he's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do, and then it's so close, he finally gets his crap together and takes a shot. That's one option. That could have happened. Or he could have some pretty large nards. Like some pretty balls of steel to wait for that bear to get really close, which it did. At that point, that bird shot's going to be, it's a lot of bird shot in a small amount of space. That's going to hurt that bear. I mean, that could be that he waited that long to make sure that he got a good shot. I don't know. It's hard to say. So let's review. He comes home. He goes out there and puts himself at risk when whether or not he should have or not, it's questionable. He is completely unprepared. He has no backup. The weapon that he chooses is hampered by the load that he has. His attitude's all wrong. He doesn't go out there with the thought in his head, I'm going to have to kill this bear if it doesn't bugger off. He doesn't even seem to even contemplate that as a possibility, or else he would have brought slugs with him. So he puts himself at risk. He brings the wrong tools. He's in a tactically poor position. There's nowhere to retreat to. He can't get there fast enough. His footgear is a burden. Crocs? Really? Who still wears Crocs? For any reason? Oh, man. And then he ends up he puts himself and the bear in a bad position. And then he gets charged, and then he takes a shot and he wounds it, and luckily for him, it changes its mind and it buggers off. And then it's probably likely to die anyways. So that's what he's done. Now, why? Obviously, he knows a thing or two about bears. You know, he knows the signs. He knows what to look for. He knows the time of year. You know, berries in the poop. He knows he can identify bear activity. And yet he still does this. So why did he do that? Well, personally, I think he's been exposed to bears for a long time, and he hasn't been properly trained on how to interact with them, and he has become arrogant and complacent. He seems to think that that shotgun is almost like a magic wand, and as long as he's carrying the shotgun, he's protected. Well, it's just a tool. If it's not applied correctly, it's useless. Now, I've watched a few of his other videos, and one of them is a scene where he's fishing with a bunch of his friends, it looks like, and there is a bear very close to him, eating salmon. Now, it's quite likely that this is late in the year as well, that the runs are coming in, the bears are getting fattened up for winter, and he's out there fishing, which is fine, and he's the only one that seems to be armed. But it's not in a ready position. He's got it slung over his shoulder. And from the sounds of it, because he sounds like he's getting bitched at by his friends for having that shotgun. They're more worried about him with the shotgun than they are with the bear. That's like 20 feet away from them. I mean, they look concerned. They're looking at the bear. Well, some of them are. But, I mean, that's such a weird attitude. They're more worried about him and his shotgun because he's yelling at them. He says, the safety's on. So they're questioning him about his shotgun, him and his shotgun. And there's a bear right there. Like, it's close. It's so weird. I mean, the only reason why that bear is not attacking one of them is because it's busy eating fish. The bear is occupied with the fish, and it's less risk, and it's easier, it's more convenient for the bear to eat that fish than those people. And that's why the bear is eating the fish. There's no other reasons. If it, for any reason at all, that bear decides that it would be better for him to eat the people, that's what he will do. It's what animals do. It's a predator. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Walt Disney movies. I mean, you see this kind of, what is it called? Anthropomorphization. That's a tongue twister. Where people put their human, they project human qualities onto animals. And it's very misplaced and very naive. Oh, the bear, if I just leave the bear alone, he'll leave me alone. Yeah, he'll leave you alone until he doesn't. And then he'll kill you. I think that's what we can learn from this. I mean, if you're going to be out and about with bears, you better be prepared to shoot and kill them. And if you're not, you're putting yourself at risk, and others too. It's not just you. It's the people around you, and it's people in your family. It's people in your community. So, train with your weapon. Use the right tool. I mean, slugs. Not buckshot. Slugs. You want a weapon that will have a very high chance of disabling or killing that animal right now. Have backup. Don't be the only one armed. Have a buddy. If you've got parents or a wife or kids who are not capable of helping you in a situation like this, then have a buddy-buddy team. Phone up your buddy next door. Just phone him up. Say, hey man, I got a grizzly in my front yard. I got to do something about it. Can you come over with your .458 Winchester Magnum or your whatever? Get over here with your appropriate tool and bear mace and help me out. So I think that's all I got to say about this one. I think this guy did some really stupid stuff, and he's got lucky. He got lucky. I think he's been lucky on many, many occasions, and he's just accepted that as the norm, when I don't think it is. I think he's just been he's had some good fortune, and the bears that he's interacted with have decided that it's less risk to either move on or eat the berries or eat the salmon than it is to eat him. And I think he's put his life, the decision to end his life, in the hands of the bear. He's not being proactive about it. It's not his decision whether or not the bear dies or not. It's the bear's decision whether he dies. And that's bad decision making. Bad decision making. So that's it, folks. I know that was long-winded and everything, but I think there's lessons to be learned here, and there we are. So I'd like to hear your responses. I'd love to hear your stories about your experiences with bears, and put it below. I'd love to hear back from you. So thanks for listening, guys, and have a good one, and I'll see you out on the range.